it's all about sustainability, and you might get another viewpoint of what sustainability could mean and how it comes going along in the hospitality and tourism industry. And we all know that travel actually has changed due to the pandemic. And how do destinations operate in the future after the pandemic? And when I say travel has changed, I'd say mainly the traveler as such has changed, whereby the industry, like in the last decade, is still in deep sleep mode and has no intention to change as it seems for now. But they have to, otherwise many of the players in the market will become irrelevant. And here's why and how. So the key topics of the industry, especially after the pandemic, is the rapid recovery from the pandemic measures. I mean, the hospitality and tourism industry has been hit the hardest, has been hit the first, and has been hit for the longest time of all other in any other industry. They need to rapidly recover, and they need to become more resilient in the future to become more resistant against issues like the pandemic and other crisis situations. Now, also, due to the digital landscape that has evolved in the last 10 years, they need to reduce the complexity in their day-to-day operations. And as we will see in a couple of minutes, most of the operators are quite overwhelmed with the digital technology. And they have to become independent again from the market-dominating behemoth OTAs, which have become a problem and which in fact has created a dysfunctional value chain. So that means they also have to regain control over their own visibility, their own digital presence, their own reputation, communication, and foremost distribution to restore economic sustainability. So why do we focus on economic sustainability? Because we believe that economic sustainability in destinations and economic sustainability for hospitality and tourism providers in such destinations are the core foundation of any other aspect of sustainability whatsoever, be it cultural, social, or ecological. If you look at it from the customer's perspective and the overall media communication, you see the Greta Thunberg effect, you see the climate change and Fridays for Futures effect. And when there is discussions about sustainable travel or responsible travel, it's clear that the majority of travelers have become much more conscious about sustainable travel, much more conscious about sustainability in general, but they have pretty much reduced sustainability to the ecological aspect of it, being it like climate change, waste, plastic, and things like that. But what has been overseen completely is that, especially in tourism, and here especially in developing countries, tourism is responsible to create prosperity. Tourism is responsible to create the necessary funds to even think sustainability projects. So without the foundation of economic sustainability coming from tourism, there is no ways any other project in sustainability, cultural, social, ecological, can even be thought of or being deployed, because there's simply no funds, means, and resources available to do so. And therefore, for us, that's the most important aspect. And that's what the industry is up to at this point in time. And we go through how we got here and how we can recover from that. As I said, economic sustainability is the core foundation, and the awareness that this is the case is pretty much not existing. And that, I guess, needs to change. We're working in collaboration with the UN WTO. So some of our digital technology is being used by the UN WTO and their 150 member states for their Restart Tourism project, where the UNWTO assists destinations and their hospitality and tourism providers to digitalize in order to overcome the challenges they currently faced with. Now, our goal as a social enterprise is to keep more tourism spend in destinations. And we say that because we are completely passionate about sustainable tourism development, but we do see it from a different perspective as the majority does. We have been established in 2016 as a social enterprise, so we very much focused on the democratization of technology, the inclusive availability of technology, and the impact we can have to destinations and their hospitality and tourism providers. We are a for-profit organization, so therefore we call it also a zebra company that does both but have a purpose. And we're mainly democratizing technology. So what do I mean with that? If you have all these small, medium enterprise hospitality and tourism businesses in the industry, then you will see that the technology they can purchase or subscribe to today is rather expensive. And most of the technology is also silo-based or silo thought. So there is no holistic approach. So you have an application for your website, you have an application for your social media, you have an application for your reputation management, you have another application for your hotel management and so forth. So you got a bunch of isolated, disparate and silo thought of kind of technology. And that technology is usually paid for by like the number of rooms or the number of activities that might this operator have in place. Now, if you have a hotel 100 rooms, but only your occupancy is 10% and you're charging $50 a night, you can still not afford such technology. So we have come up with a model where we democratize technology and we are able to make it inclusively available to even the smallest, like one person, one room business in the industry to take part in this digital transformation. Globally, we have about 2 million hospitality and tourism businesses. You see different statistics like 700,000 hotels, which are mainly the larger group of hotels or the branded hotels, but there are tons of small little mom and pop shops operated by people that are passionate about hospitality and tourism. And therefore we figured that there is about 2 million of them globally. 90% of them are emerging small, medium enterprises. Of that, we have about 200,000 alone in Africa. And that is where we started. So we started our business in Namibia, trying to overcome the challenges there, and then grew into South Africa. And we have about 28,000 hospitality and tourism businesses we assist with in Africa. So how did the landscape look like 5-7 years ago? The business for those hospitality and tourism providers have been rather easy. They needed to deal with a number of local tour operators that built itineraries for their customers. They dealt with a number of DMC inbound operators that brought in customers from their agents overseas. And that was it. So they got to deal with like 5, 6, 10, maybe type companies they knew of. The communication was mainly by email or telephone, and the world was easy, and they got bums in bed through those channels. Now, obviously, that world has changed because the traveler has changed in the last decade. This business, as you see it here, mainly comes from the so-called long tail value chain, where people go to the high street travel office, then the high street travel office purchases something from the global tour operator like an FTI, TUI, Thomas Cook, so forth. And then it goes to the DMC inbound operator, and then it ends up with the supplier. Now, obviously, due to digital change of the travelers, only 40% still go to the travel office and therefore end up in this long tail value chain. The rest of them have become digital, and that has caused a lot of challenges for the operators. Now, the world for them now has become overwhelmingly complex. Not only is it that the existing tour operators and DMCs they've dealt with in the past provide only like 40% of the business anymore, but now they are faced with hundreds and hundreds of different platforms, online travel agents, meta booking engines, Google Hotel, TripAdvisor. Everybody wants to be part of that value chain somehow. Now, instead of dealing with 4 or 5 people or businesses they knew of in the country, they now got to deal with like a bunch of 100 different platforms, which all have their own extranet, their own password, their own business processes, their own payment processes. It's hugely complex, and most of the small medium enterprise vendors and hospitality and tourism businesses are completely overwhelmed by that complexity. Now, we can expect more disruptive changes in the industry, and we saw that due to the corona situation already. Let's look at Google. Google, for like the last 10 years, is looking to get into travel more and more and more. There is different discussions about whether this is a good sign or not. But what Google is doing at the end of the day is they want to give answers to a question a user has. And that means giving an answer with the least possible clicks. So if Google will be able to give an answer at the first click without having them to go to any other website, that's the ultimate goal. Now, how they entered into the travel market, not becoming an online travel agent and compete with booking on that level, they took it a step further and said, no, we can have a direct booking in our Google business entry. We can have a direct booking in Google Maps. We can have a direct booking in Google Search. And therefore, we built that Google Hotel product, which then has evolved into the Google Travel product. Now, this is a good sign for the actual hospitality and tourism business and the destination, because it's a direct booking where 100% of the money is being kept in the destination and goes straight into the account of the hospitality and tourism businesses. Now, due to the pandemic, Google announced that those hotel listings are now for free. So they don't cost any money. It's just part of the marketing budget. You need to spend some time in order to set it up and integrate to your system. So that drives more direct bookings towards you. However, you can still advertise with Google and pay some money to get more reach, but they will never be part of your value chain. So that changes the landscape dramatically, because obviously online travel agents such as Booking, Expedia, and others are majorly concerned, because it drives a lot of traffic away from them towards the direct supplier. And this is the good thing of that particular disruption. Now, the thought of Google is very simple. They get about 10 billion a year from Booking in advertising revenue. They get another 10 billion or 12 billion from Expedia, and they got another 15 billion from other vendors in this space. So that's 30, 35 billion a year on revenue, to which they now seemingly to compete. But the math for Google is very simple. They see the market behind that is like 400 billion. So they simply go ahead and say, hey, let's stuff the 30 billion. Let's go for the 400 billion on the long run. And they can. And that's how the disruption in that perspective you can expect in the future. Now, Amazon has been trying to get into the hospitality and tourism and travel market for a long time. They haven't really figured out how to do that yet, but they have hired about 500 people from the industry into Amazon in the last 12 months. And there is something that we can expect coming up in the future. Nobody knows what and how and when, but if they come into the picture, they become a big player. And again, the OTAs have another issue on disruption from a complete different angle. Now, as you all know, Thomas Cook has been folded and went insolvent, but the Fosun Group of China has purchased the brand, and they brought that together with Ctrip and other operators in China, and they will come back as a new OTA into the European market using the still strong brand of Thomas Cook. If you look at TUI, which now has become the largest travel company in the world with some 30 million customers on their platform, they have a complete different strategy, which they call vertical integration. So what they have done in the past is they took their 30 million customers and brought them onto the TUI.com app and the TUI.com website into their CRM systems and their personalization systems and so forth. So they have verticalized all their customers and into their mid office. Sometimes they integrated the high street travel office, sometimes they avoided that. So they believe they will no longer need the high street travel office on the long run. But now they're at the mid office. The next step for them is to vertically integrate into the destination. So that means the current long tail value chain becomes a bit shorter because they will simply eliminate the DMC inbound operator in the destination. And they do that for two reasons. Number one, to streamline business processes and reduce admin costs in the range of hundreds of millions, because everything from the mid office into the destination today is rather manual. It still is being used by email or any other semi-automated kind of way. So why is this? Because in the past, they had DMCs handling everything in the destination, rate management, contracting, availability, allotments, and that kind of stuff were dealt with on a local basis from the DMC towards the hospitality and tourism business. Now, in the past, that was necessary because it was two small pieces for TUI to deal with on one hand, and it was difficult to communicate with a lodge in the bush of Africa, for example, and therefore they outsourced that to the DMC. Now today, they obviously say if you can have a Facebook, Twitter, Booking, Google, whatever account, you could also have a TUI account and we can manage that ourselves directly without having the need for the DMC being in the value chain, costing a huge amount of money in that value chain. So that's what they are going to do. And that will again change the landscape in the destinations and how destinations operate. And it's an opportunity for the destination to keep more money in the country because there's about 20% of margin in the value chain that is no longer needed, and that will be probably split between the TUI and the destination. So there's huge changes coming, which is something, again, these small operators are being overwhelmed with. And in addition to that, you have ever faster change of technology. So every other day, there's another technology coming up. You have a live chatbot here, you have a blockchain there, you have what here. They can't cope. And that's the biggest problem in the industry currently. Now, if you look at Africa specifically, you will see that only 10% of the 200,000 hospitality and tourism businesses I mentioned before do have a digital presence. If you look at developed countries like in Europe, for example, in areas, then you will see that by 40% or 50%, depending on the country, which is still way behind as it should be. And then 15%, again in Africa, about 55% in developed countries using technology for their business, meaning they have a property management system managing their bookings and reservations and payments and stuff. And only those little numbers are in the place right now, whereby the customer and the traveler has completely digitized, and 80% of the entire customer journey today is being done digital. So obviously, they're not part of it. And one of the reasons is that most of those small little independent lodges, guest houses, activity providers are often run by not professional hoteliers. So they have not being at the Lausanne University or having, studied at Marriott's or Hilton or whatever. They just went into the business because they maybe have run a farm and they build a lodge, and all of a sudden they have become a hotelier. So many of those you will see. Even in Germany, you will have a lot of these mom and pop shops. They're doing it for 2 generations now. They grew into it, but they've never been professionally trained in that matter. And what you also see, also from the demographics, that most of them are in the 50, 60 plus. They're not digital, they're not IT geeks, and they're not tech savvy people. They're also not marketing gurus. So that's the reasons why they are completely overwhelmed with what happens to them now, because now they have become a publisher, doing all that content marketing on social media. Now they have become an IT freak because they need to connect and using APIs and interfaces to connect to all these channels. They have to become digital savvy to work with all these different user interfaces and so forth, and they simply can't. What are the result? The result is they remain on pen and paper, which is the worst. And I've seen a reservation office for 144 vacation rentals in Germany just 3 weeks ago, and they're running it on pen and paper. You cannot believe it. You cannot book online. There is no availability online. You need to send an email form from the website, and they sit there for hours printing the email forms, inquiry forms, looking at the paper-based calendar, penciling on the paper, and manually answered by email. After 3 to 4 days, when the customer long forgot that they even inquired. So that's not how to do business these days. Or they got a technical son or whatever, build something in Excel or raping Outlook to become a reservations manager. That's the landscape out there for many of the businesses, or others that have been innovative in the past. They're running a 20-year-old or 15-year-old Windows server-based kind of application that also can't be integrated into the digital world of today. So in fact, the traveler has entirely digitalized, and Corona gave them a big push again, whereby the industry has been in deep sleep mode in that perspective for the last decade. And by doing so, they simply do not and no longer give the customer, the traveler, what they actually want and desire. And therefore, those businesses, and that's the majority, as you saw from the numbers, are not participating in this digital travel world. And they're losing out business opportunities big time. And by doing so, they're actually forcing their customers to go to platforms such as Booking, Expedia, and others and do business with them because it's most convenient for them and it hits exactly what they want and desire, whereby the industry doesn't provide the same. Now, by doing so, they now have become very much dependent on either the traditional value chain, if there still exists in the destination, or the few market dominating online travel agents. And that's very bad because that's no longer sustainable, as we will see. If you look at online travel agents, those hospitality and tourism businesses are giving away between 60 and 80% of the GOP to those value chains. 60 to 80% of the GOP. So when Booking is talking about now we are having 15 or 20% commission, let's look into the picture in more detail what that actually means. And again, these little hospitality and tourism businesses are also not a tax consultant or an accountant. So they don't really understand all the tricks and all the gamble that is being done with them from those OTAs, because it's articulated in a way that they do see it as an opportunity rather than another challenge coming up for them. But it's not only the money. What they also give up is the customer ownership. So in the past, like 15, 20 years ago, a customer would call a hotel and do a booking. Now, then they send a fax, then they send an email, but it was still a customer that was owned by the hotel. Now, that's no longer the case because now the customer is owned by the OTA, and they do all and everything to keep the customer, to squeeze more revenue out of that customer, regardless of the hotelier. So they don't care about the hotelier that has brought the first customer, maybe, but it's now their own customer and they're trying to make most money out of that regardless. And in Africa, we simply call that colonialism 3.0 because that's what it actually is. Now, let's look at this in another perspective. And we call that the total cost of distribution. So the total cost of distribution is the money they pay, the 60 to 80% of their GOP, and the customer ownership. And if you bring that together, you will see that's rather huge and not sustainable. Now let's look into the various value chains. So we discussed the long tail value chain on the left-hand side, where you have the traveler going into the retail travel office, wholesale operator, DMC. That in the past was about 20% from the rec rate as the STO rate. Now, DMCs have figured that their business model is no longer that relevant or no longer that feasible as it was before. And they constantly went to the operators and say, hey, we need more margin, so a higher STO commission, and we need lower rates in order to stay competitive. Now, what do they mean with stay competitive? In actual terms, they simply said, our business model is dysfunctional, but in order to stay in business for us, we just need more money from you. So they run a business that's no longer relevant as per the changes I've discussed before, on the account of the hotel, lodge, guest house, or the activity provider. It's not very ethical to do so, but this is what currently happens. Then you have your local tour operators in the country. They work directly for the traveler, and they usually ask for 20% STO. And the money of that booking remains in the destination, which is important, whereby majority of the money and the long tail value chain leaves the country. Then you got the online travel agents, which we discussed, 60 to 80% from GOP. You got Google Hotel, meta search engines, which you can feed from your marketing budget without additional cost. And then obviously you have your direct booking. Now, in the last couple of years, there have been bed banks coming into play, like hotel beds and others. Now, the DMC2 operators have figured out a new business model for them to try to sustain. So what they do, because of the lower rates they got and the higher commission they've got and the allotments they book with like hotels and lodges, knowing that they can't sell them to their wholesale tour operators, they now take this, highly discount them, and give it away to bed banks. Now, bed banks, again, providing that inventory to online travel agents or meta engines, and all of a sudden the hotel would see the room they would sell for €100 for €80 at any other online travel agent platform, not being sourced directly from them, but through bed banks. So there is a rate war because of that. Now the hotel has a website showing $100. Now online travel agents showing $80. Nothing the hotelier can do about it other than kill the DMC2 operator's contract. And that's a bad sign. And that again is an issue in terms of economic sustainability. So the hotel has become more and more out of control of their own distribution, visibility, and digital presence. Now, if we look into a real life situation, what's in the rate? So if you have a rec rate of €100, and this is a German figure here with 7% value added tax, then you need 30 euros to make up the room. So that's your linen, bedding, towels, amenities, housekeeping, and so forth. And now you get the lowest possible commission and booking, for example, is 12%, but they take the 12% from the gross. So from the €100 rec rate and even the commission on the VAT. Then they have the Genius program, which they have changed a couple of times, and they did some very nasty things during the pandemic. Now, Genius is the loyalty program of Booking.com, and any other OTA has a similar program. And that means it's meant to keep customers in their ecosystem and make more revenue through them. So in the beginning, the Genius program was only for people that had like 50 bookings, and then they become a Genius member, and they got a 10% discount on any further booking. Now, obviously, that 10% came straight from the hotelier. It's not that booking has paid for it, the hotelier has paid for it. So then you have, they got some changes, and now 70% of all the customers of booking are Genius customers. And now they've made that available even to their affiliate partners selling inventory under their own brand from the inventory that is hosted by booking.com. And therefore, you can't even tell how many people are on the Genius program. So that means literally 90% of your bookings coming in, having now another discount of 20%. So that's 22% already from your rec rate. Then they have a program that's called Preferred Supplier. And Preferred Supplier means you have done like 25 bookings and you got good reviews, and they take another 10% of you, and then they claim that you might get listed higher and you might be promoted in marketing activities and you might be this and that, but you have no proof, and you can't really, it's not transparent, and you have no idea what really happens, but it costs you another 10%. Now, obviously, both the Genius program and the Preferred Supplier you can turn off. So if you turn off the Genius program, that would immediately mean that to 80% or 70% of their customers, you won't be shown anymore. So your visibility on those platforms goes nowhere. So then rather delist from the platform anyway. And the Preferred Supplier, then they tell you, okay, we do not list you high, we list you on a second page or whatever. So they really put pressure on you in a silly way to keep in those programs. And then you pay additional 3% for the credit card. And if you do the payment model with OTAs, you pay even 5%. So of the 100 rec rate that the hotelier thinks is his money, more or less, only 18 euros remain, whereby 66% of the GOP is ending up with the OTA. So the OTA makes more money with this booking than the hotelier itself. And we believe this is going to become an unethical business model. Now, if we compare that to what's in the rate in the direct booking, where the customer books on their own website, the 100, the VAT, the room is the same. And then obviously the benchmark in industry for marketing budget is like 5%. You've got to add an IT budget to keep your systems running, 2%. And again, you have the credit card payment, 3%. So you're ending up with 53 bucks out of the 100, or giving away 11.3% of your GOP. That's a slightly different world, right? And therefore, keeping more money in the destination, getting more direct bookings is key for economic sustainability. So let's look into that in the quadrant kind of system, and you will obviously see what are the value of the various distribution channels. So obviously, the cost of distribution is very high with DMC, and the customer ownership is very low with the DMC as it is with the OTA, because they do not disclose who the customer actually is. You do not have contact details, no email address, no telephone number. You can't communicate with them at all, unless they are in front of your reception, where you then can take the contact details for the first time. But then you got to do something with the data, and most just don't do it. So they leave it with the DMC or they leave it with the OTA, and now they own your customer. And on the long run, that's not good. Then you have your local tour operator that's pretty much in the middle. You have Google Hotel, where you have customer ownership very high because it's your own direct customer, and the cost of distribution is rather low, and then ultimately the direct booking. So this is the total cost of distribution, and then it would tell and it would inform any hotelier what they need to do in order to manage their sales spread and their entire distribution. But as we said in the beginning, most of them are overwhelmed with that complexity, and it's changing every other day. So they need someone to deal with that and help and assist them to get it done properly. So in fact, it has removed the control for those small, medium businesses in terms of their own visibility, being visible, to be found on search engines, in Google Maps, in Google Hotel, wherever, with their digital presence, their own website with a booking and payment facility, with reputation, because customers of OTAs get an email from the OTA a day ahead of the departure to do a review. Now, obviously, they do the review with a simple click in the app for that online travel agent. Now, if the hotel comes back like 2 days later or at the time at the reception, please do review, they won't, because they've already done one. So they're losing that opportunity of contact, and they're losing the opportunity to creating trust for their own business because of that. And therefore, they got up with the control of visibility, reputation, their entire communication to the customer and the distribution, because they just left it to those platforms for the reasons we just mentioned. So let's look at it from the traveler's perspective and how the traveler would see that entire environment. And you all probably know the traveler mental model, which consists of dreaming, planning, book and pay, experience, and share. It's a closed loop. So in the dreaming mode, someone is attracted by a video, a TV show, a print advert, talking to friends, social media, whatever, and dreams about going places, such as like Africa. Now, in that perspective, they got endless time. And they're searching 6, 9 months, sometimes longer, hundreds and hundreds of websites, and getting inspired by looking at videos, 360 tours, images, and whatnot, until they decide, okay, Africa is nice, now we go to South Africa. So when they've decided that, they enter in their mental model the planning mode. In the planning mode, they got less time because they decided they go to South Africa. Now they need to plan what they're going to do, which attraction they're going to see, what kind of tours they're going to do, what kind of activities they're going to do, where would they stay, how do they get there, what does the car rental look like, and so forth. So they have less time than in dreaming mode because they want to get it done. Now in that space, they want to get all the facts and figures and the details they need, probably in a single place or with the least clicks possible. So if you have a website where you need to click 5 times around in order to figure where it is and how to get there and what it costs and is it available, then you are in bad shape. You need to have that in one spot. Now, when the planning has been done, they enter the book and pay mode. And in the book and pay mode, they again change their patience, and we call that instant gratification. So they have no patience anymore. They want to get things done. One click book and pay. Now, obviously, if you have an itinerary of 10 lodges and activities and flight and car rental, the one click book and pay is currently a vision that doesn't really exist unless you go to a travel office. So if you want to do it yourself, that's very difficult. And because the industry makes it difficult, those platforms do exist. Now, in the instant gratification, they no longer want to send an email. They don't want to call. They don't want to send an inquiry form. They want to click, book, pay, get rid of it, and then enjoy the holiday. Now, the experience is when they are in the destination, enjoying the stay and so forth, and then they're sharing that experience with others in social media posts, in reviews and so forth, which then is trusted or user-generated content for others to start dreaming. So that's the traveler mental model. And if a hotelier or an activity provider or destination manager doesn't understand the traveler mental model, there is very little they can do in order to attract them. So let's take an example on Africa as I just mentioned. Africa destinations mainly are itinerary destinations, so they're more complex than going to Mallorca in one hotel, staying there for 10 days. So the situation for those customers is like this: 10 lodges, activities, car rental, and flight. And you all need to align that and get this together yourself. And this is how it looks like after 2 hours. You simply cannot do that without big hassle. It's too complicated because one operator has no inventory on the website. You can't check availability. They don't have the rate. You can't book. You can't pay. You need to send inquiry form. The other one has online everything, and they're pushing you because it's the last room, but you can't book it because you don't have the itinerary completed beforehand. So you really struggle. Now, after all the time spent in dreaming and planning, now the customer and the traveler faces the biggest challenge in book and pay. And this is where they drop off. So simply said, the travelers are not enabled to do business with destinations easily. And that's because the industry is not digitally enabled as the customer actually is. And the instant gratification is by no means fulfilled so that the customer is being forced going elsewhere. And this elsewhere in the result is like this. So after they spend weeks and months of dreaming and planning, and they can't book, it becomes too complicated, they could say, okay, let's stuff it. It's just too much. Let's go on a cruise, one click book and pay, 5-star all-inclusive, 10 days, 5 countries. That's it. Bye-bye, Africa. So we're losing this customer as a destination entirely. Or they go to any of the online travel agents where almost everything seems to be there and book one after the other, one by one, on the online travel agent, with the result we just mentioned, paying 60 to 80% of the profit and giving away the customer ownership. Or they simply go into a high street travel office, which then they get the itinerary, go there, please book this, don't ask any questions, just do the admin and invoicing for me, send me the bill, and I'm done. Again, it goes through the long tail value chain and costs a huge amount of money just because they are not digitalized as the customer wants to. That is not sustainable. And not sustainable means it's not economically sustainable. And that has an impact on the entire sustainability in travel as a whole. And the awareness of that is too little at this point in time, as I believe. So what could be a potential solution? We believe that the next disruption in the industry is a supply side platform or a B2B marketplace, as you would call it, that seamlessly integrates all the stakeholders in a destination, all the suppliers, hotels, activity providers, even gastronomy, the local tour operators building itineraries for customers, creating a destination portal that has all that information tied together, and many other stakeholders, so that the customer has a single point or focal point of entry into the destination where they can dream, where they can plan, and where they can book and pay in a single click. Now, we built something that we call the Destination Network Open Platform and Ecosystem, and it's doing exactly that. It's an open platform because we use open data. Everybody has access to all the metadata that's being created. We built market intelligence dashboards for destination managers. Everything is accessible through API interfaces from all stakeholders. So it's really a non-proprietary platform that have access to everyone in the ecosystem. And we democratize technology and make it inclusively and pervasively available to every single one in the industry or in the destination. So what does it mean? For hotels, for example, as I said, most of the software is being priced by the number of rooms. We don't think that makes any sense, because if you got 100 rooms and you only got 10% occupancy and asking $50 a night, there is still not much you can afford. So the way we work is that we say, okay, what is your number of rooms? Let's say 10, occupancy 20%, room rate average $50, opening days a year 360 days. Out of that, we calculate using an algorithm what they can afford. So, and maybe that little vacation rental of one room only pays like $50 a night, a month. Now we go to the Dorchester in London, 250 rooms, $350 a night, 80% occupancy. They might pay $3,500 a month because they can, because the value of for them is completely different. So, and that's how we democratize technology, and where the big guys actually subsidize to a certain extent the small guys. So that means when we go into destinations, every single, even one-person shop can be included in digital and can transform digitally and can afford it. Now, from a very high level, you have all the relevant content, like non-bookable or static content, as you would call it, which is images, videos, 360 tours, descriptions, amenities, facilities, and so forth. You got the property management systems or activity management systems with the availability, rates, and inventory. You got various payment platforms to make that possible. You got reputation management systems to manage responses and your entire reputation. And you got the distribution management to connect to any other platform, and you integrate any other proprietary platform you might want to, like from the tourism ministry or whatever. So that means you have a single point of entry and a single point of truth for all your content and all your business transactions related to the entire customer journey and travel chain. Now, on the other side, you have local tour operators that make use of that content to create their own websites, and now being able to take bookings on their own website using that mechanism. You have obviously connections to local OTAs and local online tour operators. Like in South Africa, you got Travel Start, which is a South African company. They're very much focused on Africa. Again, money remains in the country. And you would create a destination portal, which becomes the focal point for the traveler. And then obviously you have all sorts of programmatic interfaces to build any other application on top of that destination network and platform. If you look at it from a different tiers level, how we enable the industry and the destination, and starting at tier 1, then at first the supplier are enabled to become digital. So that means they become visible on Google, managing their Google business and synchronizing that data through to 40 other platforms to have consistent data to become more relevant and significant for the search engines. They got a proper digital presence website on best practice templates that has, been researched for many, many years, and how that best practice looks like to drive the customer to create the booking. And that has integrated payment as well. Then we do assist them with the reputation, creating more reviews and answering and responding to those reviews in a proper way, because reputation and proper answers to reviews create trust, and trust creates direct bookings. And then comes, to get more reach, the social media posting, social media advertising, digital advertising on Google and so forth. And then the property management system that actually runs your business, manages the reservations, rooms, guests and invoices and so forth. Now, once that is done, all those business transactions and all that content is now available in the platform. And on tier 2, the local tour operator gets enabled in the same way as the supplier in tier 1, But now on their own website, they are now aggregating all those tier one suppliers on their own website and become a little booking.com on their own. But they're an in-destination company, so any booking would, the money of that booking would remain in the destination, which was our first goal. So we enabled the local tour operator to become a little booking.com on one hand. Now, the competitive advantage the local tour operator now has, they got knowledge of the destination. They know where to go, what to do, what not to do, what's good and what's not. And they can actually guide the customer, which any of the OTAs can't do at all. And they can build a package that is tailor-made for that particular customer and still enable the customer to completely enjoy that digitally in terms of the proposal and in terms of changes and in terms of booking and paying. Now, that's a competitive advantage for the local tour operator. And then they build a number of itineraries, which they then post on their website to be booked with a single click. Now, on tier 3, you have the destination portal, which is mainly run by a DMO, the destination management organization, the tourism board, whatever, sometimes even from a private organization. Now, again, they now aggregate all content and transactions from tier 1 and all the itineraries from tier 2 into the destination portal, giving both of them exposure. Now, the destination portal usually is actively marketed from the DMO or the tourism board. Now, due to that active marketing, that has potentially the highest possible traffic. But due to the interlinking of the tier 2 and tier 1 to the destination portal, they all enjoy the SEO, they all enjoy the traffic juice coming from the destination portal due to that interlinking in the ecosystem. Now, if you look at these 3 tiers, then the customer has now the ability to dream, plan, book, and pay on 3 different roads into the destination, completely digital as they want and desire. Meaning that if they do a booking with any of the 3, 1, 2, or 3, 100% of the money is being kept in the destination, and that was our primary goal to achieve. Now, only then we obviously connect in tier 4 to other distribution platforms to get more visibility, to get more direct bookings. And foremost, there's Google Hotel, and there's a lot of other direct booking, no commission platforms that have come up that actually take money from customers rather than from the supplier. Like Bitroom, for example, you can become a member of bitroom.com and you can create bookings with hotels, and they don't take any commission from the hotel, but they take a annual subscription fee of like $50 a year for the benefits of using the platform. And then obviously we connect them to online travel agents, meta engines, and so forth. But while doing that, we're trying to only use them as a billboard. And there's many different ways of doing that. For example, if you have a beach hotel, you obviously want to have a sea view room, but you would only give the garden view or mountain view rooms to the OTAs, whereby the sea view rooms are prominently played out on their own website. So taking into account that anyone that goes to an online travel agent would normally also go to the website of the hotel to get some more detailed information, maybe get a better deal. So they go shopping. So if they only find the garden view rooms on the OTA, but they can see and get the sea view rooms on the website of the hotel, it's most likely they book directly on the website. And there's like many other mimics you can do to play that game with the online travel agents, using them as a billboard, but getting the booking direct, which then becomes the ultimate goal. So the way we do that in destinations is we build public-private partnerships with tourism authorities and associations. So why do we do that? Because we're a social enterprise. We are focused on the impact and to keep more money in the country. And therefore also the tourism authorities and the Ministry of Tourism need to be enabled. So while building that public-private partnership, we're giving away all the technology or the methodology or the concept or the onboarding procedures and all the promotion templates and everything to them, build local capacity for their own teams in order to rapidly onboard like 1,000 businesses in probably a week. And that's what we can do. And you can only drive digital transformation if you rapidly deploy it and not take this over a number of years. So if you look at it from the platform perspective, then the actual hospitality and tourism businesses need to do something in order to stay alive. And we call that the 5 stages of success, whereby the platform we just discussed was mainly for the tourism authority, the DMO, to be used and take advantage of. And now we have the different features of the actual businesses, and we call it the 5 stages of success. So what did we do? We broke down the traveler mental model, dreaming, planning, booking, experience, and sharing, and put that into building blocks which are interdependent and to each other and seamlessly integrated to each other to really make it work in a very, very easy way for hospitality and tourism businesses to not again overwhelm them. So in stage 1, it's about visibility. So here we make sure they'll be found and look stunning on Google or any other search engine. So what they get here is the Google business, or the content is accurate. We make sure that they got a 360 Google Street View tour, and we publish this tour everywhere, and we manage and optimize the content constantly, and we do synchronize it with 40 other platforms to have consistent content throughout the entire internet. Because Google is searching all the other platforms, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, any other stuff they can find about the brand. And if there is inconsistent content, that has an impact on your relevance. Now, while doing that, you will see that 30% more visitors will come to stage 2, which then is the website. So here you need a stunning and optimized website with direct booking conversion best practice. So when I say best practice, many people say, no, I don't want a templated website. I would like to have my own designed individual website that looks amazingly stunning and fits my brand and so forth. And you can do that. But if you look at Amazon, for example, and everybody knows the Amazon checkout, it's rather ugly, but it sits there for like 20 years and hasn't changed. So why didn't it change? If they would only change the checkout button from orange to green, it will cost them 10% conversion or 10% of revenue. If they would change the user interface of what the customer has actually learned on how to check out, they would lose money significantly. And what we've done is through the thousands of websites that have been running, we analyzed how users work with those websites and created that best practice on how to guide a user from becoming a looker and getting into a booker, so to say. So that's what we call best practice. So we not advise a customer to do their own super stunning designer type website, because customers might get confused because it's not what they've learned how a hotel website works. And therefore we try to convince them getting a best practice website. And that means it's stunning, it's shining, it's responsive, it's search engine optimized with all the newest technology you can think of. Follows exactly the traveler mental model. So the website actually of a hotel has 2 objectives. Number 1, getting a booking. Number 2, if you can't get the booking, get the contact details in order to have your sales following up getting the booking manual. Now, if you don't understand the traveler mental model, where you need to catch a traveler on one hand while they're in dream mode, on the other hand in planning mode, or then in the booking and paying mode, and your website doesn't represent that, your conversion goes down instantly. And we took all of that from 8 years of experience in analyzing all the website user behavior in video sessions, in heat maps, and everything else you can think of. And it's all about creating direct bookings, and it's again seamlessly integrated into many other systems and platforms to really become easy. On average, we achieve 30% more revenue and 50% more profit for those hospitality and tourism businesses. Now, customers have been there, have enjoyed the stay, and now it comes to reputation. And active reputation management is very important because we analyzed like 50 reputation platforms. We do semantic analysis on every single review. And due to that, we can break down the reviews into departments and can tell the customer exactly where they overperform. Maybe they spend too much money here, where they're okay, or where they underperform, where they have to improve the product. And that's no longer an opinion. It's now based on data, and data beats opinion. So we can give the customer exact information on where they need to improve the product in order to up their reputation. But then we're also interested in all negative reviews they might receive. And why is that? Customers read the negative review first. And then they decide whether or not they continue with that vendor or they go elsewhere. So if you do not respond to your negative or neutral reviews, you might lose customers right away at this point in time you don't even know. Now, if you take a negative review and have a proper, perfect response that really addresses the concern of the customer, and you really make sure that everybody sees you take your business serious, you take that review, which was once negative, into more than a 5-star review, because now you've created so much trust for others that they now continue to read the positive reviews and most likely book with you. But if you don't care about that, you're losing customers right away at this point in time without even knowing it. So we're reading all these platforms in 20 different languages, using artificial intelligence to create data out of it. And we make sure that every departing customers gets a review email earlier than an online travel agent would do it. And we do also assist with the review responses because most of them are unable to articulate a response in a proper way as it would deem for a customer. And if they want to, there is partners of us that can assist them to improve product. And at the end of the day, more trust, more bookings. That's simple. Now, many customers come and many hotels and activity providers say, okay, no, we need more bookings. So therefore, we need advertising, we need social media posts and this and that. We don't know where to start. And there would be silo-based agencies like social media agents or digital advertising agencies that would just take the money. So give me $1,000 a month and we do advertise for you or post social media. So we just decline. We just don't do it. So what we do is we check, are they ready and is their house in order, so to say, in their stage 1, visibility, in their stage 2, their own website, and in their stage 3, reputation. Because if that house is not in order, if they're not properly set up in that perspective on stage 1, 2, and 3, then you can advertise whatever you want. And it will simply not convert because your house is not in order. So the advertising or the social media agency would grab the money, say, hey, we got 10,000 impressions, we got 2,000 links on the website, we did a great job, we recommend you going for $3,000 next month to even improve. But the hotel might come back and say, hey, I only got 3 bookings. It's not worth it, right? And the reason is not that the digital agency did a bad job, but they are silo-based. They got the job to do advertising, which they did. They didn't got the job to convert advertising into bookings. And that's where people get stuck and people don't understand how all of these stages are really interdependent to each other. Now, we decline to do that and say, save the money. Let's get stage 1, 2, and 3 in order first. And we do analyze their entire digital presence in a digital health track where we can get the exact status quo of where they're at this point in time. Now, once stage 1, 2, and 3 is properly set up and done, the organic growth of conversions and bookings and revenue is significant. And in most cases, they won't even need digital advertising or additional reach. If they still want to, that can easily be done, but now it has a much different effect because it converts much better. Only if 1, 2, and 3 has been done, we would look into stage 4 to even grow further from here, creating more reach. And that means more SEO monitoring, taking care of all the changes. We have free charges and upgrades for all the technology that is coming up. We do email marketing to global tour operators, social media marketing and content marketing. And the good thing here is whenever there's a new technology coming up, then that's automatically being deployed on the platform. So the website will never be out of technology or out of space or whatever. It's always current and keeps up with the newest technology that's on the market without them relaunching anything, without them doing anything. So therefore, they always stay ahead of the crowd and get more exposure. Now, and all of that funnels into stage 5, where then we have the hotel management system or the activity management system, where they consolidate all their bookings from all the various channels. They manage the inventory, focused on growing the profit, connecting to all the local tour operators, connecting to the destination dashboard. We help them actively managing the revenue and promote and yield all the channels for the highest possible profit. And this is how we try to keep more tourism spend in the destination and how to restore economic sustainability. Now, with that, they obviously have gained back the control on their own visibility, reputation, communication, and distribution. And that is a game changer for the industry. And we believe that that disruption is coming out of the destination and must come from the suppliers, because there is not much disruption coming on the other end from the consumer-facing side, other than any other Me Too product trying another business model. And by doing so, we actually keep more tourism spend in destinations and enable them for sustainable tourism development, which is completely aligned to the UNWTO digital transformation strategy and contributes to all the various SDGs, which is also an important aspect for many destinations to look at. So we've done that for quite some time. And what did we achieve? If we only look at one destination, which is Namibia, we generated 11.2 million total searches for our hospitality and tourism businesses in Namibia. Now, Namibia is a small destination, only receiving about 280,000 travelers in leisure tourism per year. So it's a rather small destinations. And 11.2 million total searches on the destination is not bad. That generated, and we got 28,000 hospitality businesses in 25 African destinations currently in our platform. They're not all paying customers. We did a lot of work pro bono for many of them, just to grab all the content and help them to even have a simple website to be even available and to be seen. So we generated 42 million image and 360 virtual tour views. That's mainly in the dreaming phase. So out of the 11 million views, 42 million views of the visuals, 23 million Google business views, and 1.1 million conversions. And that responded to 135% more local tour operator bookings. Again, money is being kept in the country, and 212% more direct bookings directly into the supplier. And we got on top of that 5,900 direct inquiries from customers directly for the respective suppliers. And we generated 20 million Rand in direct bookings for those hospitality and tourism businesses. Money that's 100% being kept in the destination and therefore restoring economic sustainability. If you look at what the destination has invested, you can see a return of invest between 4 times and 12 times, depending on destination and business. And that was it.